The artifact we're talking about today is the #1 artifact asked about in the museum, and it's one of the most misrepresented artifacts that we have in the entire Arabia collection. And it's this. It's a bed key. Now, the question is, what is a bed key? Now, if you go out and Google bed key, you're not going to see this very often. What you will see is something more like this. You see, back in the 1850s, beds were typically a box frame with rope going back and forth in a little crisscross pattern, and you would get your mattress, you'd lay it down, and boom, there's your bed. But over time, laying down on that mattress, laying on that bed, the ropes would start to sag down in the middle, and you would need something to tighten those ropes, and that's where the bed keys come in, but not this one. Take a look at this clip from the Vance Birthplace State Historic Site in Weaverville, North Carolina, to see a bed key in action.
Today, we're talking about this neat little tool here. This is called a bed key. As you can see, we have a bed frame here that is very typical of the 1800s and I would say 1700s. The bed key is what we use to tighten these ropes, because after a few nights of sleep, the ropes will stretch out. You will notice it has a notch and it has a handle, and this notch is what fits onto the ropes. What you would want to do is start at the end and insert your bed key like so. So I'm going to take that and turn it hard, right? And I've made myself a wooden peg. Jam that in there, and it's going to hold it, all right? I'm going to move to the next section, and I'm going to turn it. And it's going to pull from where the peg is to this point, all right? Take my peg out, and it's going to hold from there. You just keep repeating this pattern all the way around until you get to the very end. And where the knot was, you'll suddenly have a lot more rope left over. Retie your knot, and everything firms up.
Well, there you go. That's a bed key. But when you look at our bed keys, they look like nothing that you saw in that video, and they look nothing like the bed keys that you see online. So again, the questions remain, what is this, and what does it do? For that, let me introduce you to one of our main reference points here at the Arabia Steamboat Museum, the Illustrated Catalog of American Hardware of the Russell and Irwin Manufacturing Company. That's a mouthful to say the least, but when it comes to identifying some of the artifacts that we have in this collection, this is our absolute go-to resource. And voila, bed keys. So here we have proof that this particular artifact back in the 19th century was indeed referred to as a bed key, but the question still remains of, what does this do? It turns out during this time in American history, there was a group of people who used these bed key tools on a regular basis. They were firemen. You see, back then, stopping a fire was pretty hard to do. Actually, it's, I imagine, pretty hard to do today, but imagine the differences between firemen and the tools and resources they have today versus what they had in the 19th century. You don't have readily accessible water like you do today. You didn't have a truly trained group of firemen. Most of the firemen back then were just volunteers. Not to mention the fact that they didn't have the technology to spray water 75 to 100 feet like they can do today. So putting out a fire back then was almost impossible in some situations. So if firemen aren't actually responsible for putting out a fire, what did firemen do? A couple of things. First off, make sure that all the people are removed from the building safely. Number two, if there was time, if it was still safe enough, firemen were actually charged to go back into the homes and retrieve the personal belongings of the people. Now, in the 18th and 19th century, do you know what the most valuable item in the home was? It was the beds. Now, bringing out an entirely assembled bed through multiple doorways and possibly second-story floors, that wasn't a reasonable expectation. So what they would do is they would go into the bedrooms and disassemble the beds and bring out the pieces individually. And to do that, enter the Bedkey, or often referred to as bed wrench. It's basically a multi-tool with multiple sized sockets, a screwdriver, and even tapered sockets here for working out screws of varying sizes. Now, a lot of folks who come into the museum see our Bedkeys on display, and they tell the story about how the expression sleep tight originated from the practice of tightening these bed ropes. But the truth of the matter is, that particular expression comes from a place of wishing someone to sleep well, to sleep soundly, and to sleep safely. So, there you have it, folks. 19th century Bedkeys. If you like this particular video, if you want more stories like this, hit that subscribe button down below, and also, very importantly, hit the little bell off to the side. That way you will get notifications the next time we upload another video.